Hello, I'm Jane, I'm the Cornish knitter, and welcome to my channel. On this channel and on this episode we're going to be talking about what I've been up to, what I've been knitting. It's been a while since I spoke to you last, but I have been busy here. There's been a lot going on at Stitches and Cream, which some of you may know something about if you've been joining in with our sock club or our knit along. But also, yeah, just a few things that have been happening in life, but I thought I would just catch you up quickly on what I've been up to. And at the end of this video, you'll find I've done a little walkabout. I went to Polperro in the summer holidays with my husband, and we had a good old mooch around. And I paid a visit to the Ganseys Museum and the Heritage Museum, which was fabulous. So there is some footage at the end, about 10 minutes I think. So if you're interested in that, then do go and have a look. Okay, so probably start with what I'm wearing. Good place to start usually with these videos, isn't it? So most of you have seen, if you've watched my previous videos, that I've been knitting up the field sweater, me and countless others, from Camilla Vad. It's a top-down design sweater with this sort of grain or seed design that sort of radiates out from the neckline. It takes quite a bit of knitting, I have to say, so it's not one that you sort of can knit up really quickly. This section here, although I loved doing the grains, you're using a cable needle and you're creating lots of stitches and then bringing them together, so it can, some of the rows can take quite a long time to knit, but I really enjoyed it and I really love the end result. So I've knitted this in John Arbon Knit by Numbers. It's a double knit pattern, double knit weight. If I stand up on my counter, you can see that I've knitted it sort of slightly longer than the pattern because I wanted it to sit just below my middle. Yeah, who doesn't want things to sit a little bit lower than their middle? And it has some German short rows at the back as well. It had I did a tubular cast on, so it's a nice cast on for the start. The only other modification I made, and I knitted this in the size, the third size up, which is probably a medium, and it's sort of come up really sort of true to pattern. The only other modification I made was on the sleeve. I decided to add a bit more of the pattern. The pattern itself has plain sleeves, but I decided that to add a little bit more of this grain stitch, and as you can see, I've done sort of several grains down, sort of starting so that they didn't all start together, and then introduced another one here, and then the bigger grain right before my cuff here. I ummed and ahed whether to do that, but I'm really pleased I did because I actually like the way it's turned out. I just think it adds a little bit of something to the design. It just gives it a little bit of extra feature. I notice on Instagram that she's just about to release a cardigan version of this, which will be fabulous too, I'm sure. I'm not sure whether it's a steeked cardigan. I'm sort of presuming it must be, to keep this pattern sort of in line and the design looking nice. But yeah, it's certainly one I'm going to be looking at, and probably it will be added to my huge Ravelry list of things that I would like to knit, but I haven't got around to quite yet. What else have I been knitting on? So I've talked about the Falmouth Harbour hat quite a bit in previous videos, but I've been knitting sort of samples up for the shop in different colours. We've got it in green and a rust colour, all in Cumbria, which is a worsted weight yarn by the Fibre Company. I would say this pattern is for a confident beginner to intermediate, mainly because the cables go right into the centre, and you're cabling sort of different ways, and every fourth row, I think it is, there are quite a number of cable crossovers. So it's one that you have to concentrate on. I've knitted it so many times, I think I know it off by heart. But also now, obviously, the Falmouth Harbour mitts are out, so I've also been knitting up the mittens. Weather here in Falmouth, we've had glorious weather. It's been, in fact, on Sunday I went swimming and I thought the sea was as warm as it's been all summer. It was a glorious day, but our weather's sort of returning to normal now, and they've even talked about frost coming this weekend, so my mittens might come in useful. But these Falmouth Harbour mittens are in 2 sizes, so we've got the small size, and I've got a different colour here. So it's a bit big on me, this one, but that's a sort of medium to large size. This took, I'm just trying to think how much yarn this took, probably about 60 grams of yarn to make the pair of mittens. But what we're doing in the shop is that we're selling individual patterns with the yarn for both the hat and the mittens, but we're also doing sort of kits where you get enough yarn for both options as well. So hopefully that will tempt people to have a go at both, and you'll get the patterns as PDFs. So I've been working on knitting those. So every time I've been on the train, I've had to go up to London a couple of times recently, so every time I've hopped on the train, I've probably taken a hat or a pair of mittens with me. I went up to Scotland to see my daughter in Edinburgh, and yeah, a pair of mittens came on the plane with me. I did a stupid thing on the plane. I have AirPods, you know, the earphones that are Bluetooth connected, and we were sort of rushed onto the plane, and I was sort of sitting apart from my husband, and because we were right at the front of the plane, the air hostess sort of whipped my bag away quite quickly and said, oh, that's going to have to go in the overhead locker rather than under your seat. And I didn't have my plug-in earphones, which I would normally have had for my phone. I was going to listen to my audiobook and knit whilst I was on the plane, and I didn't have them because they were whipped away. So I plugged in my Bluetooth ones, but unbeknownst to me, I started my audiobook, and my Bluetooth earphones hadn't connected to my phone. They'd connected to somebody else's. So I was playing I was thinking, oh, that's a bit quiet, I'll turn it up. And apparently I was playing my audiobook to probably the first 4 rows of the plane. And my husband was trying to frantically communicate to me and that I was doing it. And the guy who was sitting next to me took pity on me and sort of gave me a nudge and sort of said, they're not connected. So I couldn't listen to anything, so I had to knit. But it did mean the air hostesses sat and chatted to me about knitting, and they were like, oh, what are you knitting? What are you doing? And then we sort of got into a discussion about knitting and how they'd like to have a go. So I was showing them how to do some of the sort of just basic techniques. So it was quite fun in the end. But yeah, my husband was like, marched me off the plane and sort of said, goodness, can't take you anywhere. So I was probably glad my kids weren't with me. So yes, so that's what I've been up to. The other thing I've been knitting an awful lot of is socks. Some of you might have joined or signed up to our sock club. It hasn't been without its teething problems, so apologies if there have been a couple of teething problems. But we were overwhelmed with the amount of people that signed up, which is fabulous. We're creating this wonderful community, and I'm seeing people chatting about socks and really getting excited waiting for their boxes to arrive, their first boxes. It was so popular we had to actually close it again, just because we were overwhelmed with people joining up. But it will reopen. Anybody that is interested in sock club, it will reopen in middle of November for a couple of weeks. So we've decided we'll open it for a couple of weeks and then close it and then welcome new people in. And the idea, for those of you that are thinking, what on earth is she talking about? The sock club is something that we've been working on for a little while now. And basically every 2 months you get a sock box. In it you'll have a lovely sock yarn, predominantly generated from British companies wherever we can. It will have British yarn as well, but it will be different yarns that you might not have tried for socks before. After the first box, you'll have a pattern that's completely designed by us, so it's unique to us. It won't be released on Ravelry for another 12 months after we've done it. You'll have a handmade stitch marker and also a gift from Cornwall. So if I show you, oh, I'll show you in a minute when I show you some of the socks. So you have a handmade crafted gift from Cornwall as well. Alongside that, you have online tutorials, and we have social events as well, so people can support each other to create their socks. So it's so lovely to see so many people joining, but as I said, it sort of took us a little bit by surprise. But everybody that joins gets the same box, and then you slot into the every 2 months of routine of them. And we had people sign up from all over the world, and those that signed up from sort of America and Australia could have the option of signing up for 6 months or 12 months and actually getting sort of 3 lots of socks, so sort of their half-year sock box all together, so that it saved on postage for them. But they've just been told not to peek into the surprise ones for next time. But in there as well, we've done some lovely little hand designed drawings of each stage of the sock knitting. So it's just a great way to do something together, but if you're fairly new to socks as well, to learn some new techniques with the support of others. But I just wanted to show you some of the, so I've been working with just 20 people really on the previous sock boxes, just to try and perfect them and get them right. As I said, still made a couple of boo-boos, but just to show you some of the socks that we've already knitted. So this one here was the coronation sock, for obvious reasons, and it was made of John Arbon's Exmoor sock yarn in 3 colours. So that was one of the ones, and what I was trying to show people here was how to change colours in the sock. So it was just that purpose. Box 3 was the rose trellis sock. So this one here was that lovely lacy design, which reminded me a little bit of trellis. You had a picot cast on edge, and then an afterthought heel. So I'm just showing people how to place an afterthought heel. And the yarn we used for this was a traditional sock yarn dyed up by Camel's Yarn, a Cornish dyer, in a special colourway for our sock. And then the most recent one that went out before we launched Sock Club proper is the Withy Pot sock shawl. So a withy pot was a lobster or shellfish pot that fishermen used to make out of wicker and twine, and it was sort of conical shaped, and they used to put it in the water, and the idea being that creatures would get in through the sort of sides and then get trapped and be able to be hauled up and caught. The traditional wicker design has sort of been replaced by different materials because they weren't that robust, so they would have to be repaired all the time. But this sock here is a cabled sock, and I thought this sort of design sort of replicated the sort of wicker twisting and twining that you see in the pots. This yarn here, oh, I should just say a little bit about the construction. This one again was a top down, and then we used an Eye of the Partridge heel and a spiral toe. I don't know if you can see that very clearly on here, but yeah, a spiral toe design. The yarn itself was from River Knits, from Marcus and Becky at River Knits. I think the colour was called Ernedankt. Marcus is German, so he names the yarns with German names. So this is what the yarn sort of was for this one, and so that's quite recently gone out to the people that have been working with us for a period of time. So they've not long received their box, but in their gift pack, for example, they got a hand made. So this wicker design here is actually a bird feeder, but it's replicating the original Withy Pot design, and it was made by a Cornish company called Cornish Craft Work. They make these by hand. And then inside is a fat ball, again produced here in Cornwall, which is there to feed the birds. So this was a gift that people got in their last box. These boxes won't be replicated. You know, we might do other things around this sort of theme, but they won't be replicated. But what made me giggle with these is when they arrived one of our customers contacted me and she went, Jane, she said, the gift inside, she said, is it some sort of fertility charm or something? She said, because I'm 67 and I don't think I need it. So it just made me giggle because I was, I thought I could understand why. When I do the videos about what's in the box, I do explain what they are, but she obviously hadn't watched it. Then another lady came to me and thought that the fat balls, because we put in 2 into the packs, she thought the fat balls might be some sort of rustic bath bomb, but fortunately she hadn't put it in the bath. So, but I just wanted to sort of give you an insight into the sock club if people were interested in it and saw something about it or have joined it. If you have joined it, launch parties on Saturday the 14th, and we'll explain a little bit more there, but as I said, it's really just to create a community and encourage people to try different yarns and learn different techniques in a really supportive environment. So that's been keeping me busy. I've knitted 2 sock boxes now in advance and started to record all the videos and doing all the ordering. So that's why I've sort of not worked on my own projects quite so much as I would have done. So the other thing I've been working on in terms of knitting, so some of you have been joining in with our shawl knit along. Those of you that have, you'll know that we are knitting either the Arissimum shawl by Celine Fainton, or we are knitting the Aster shawl by Natasha Hornby. We've been, oh goodness me, we're about, I don't know, probably about 6 weeks in now. Fran, who's been knitting the Aster shawl, and I've been knitting the Arissimum shawl. We go live on YouTube every fortnight. Friday the 13th is our next one. This might go out after that one, probably will. But Friday the 13th at 7 o'clock, we sort of go on online live on YouTube and get loads of people joining us, talking about their shawl knits. It is the shawl knit along, but it's also a bit of a knit and natter. So if you see any of them come up, do join in and just chat. We just chat knitting basically as we knit. But I wanted to show you my Arissimum shawl. So this is what it's looking like. As you can see, I'm getting to the part where you've got loads of stitches on. You sort of whiz through, don't you, the early stages, which is sort of this bit. You sort of think, oh God, I'm whizzing through, and then it sort of gets a little bit slower. But this is mosaic knitting here. And then these are just simple garter stripes with a little eyelet to break them up. I've really enjoyed knitting on this. I've got a few more stripes to do, and then there is a lace border in the rusty sort of colour. We sold a load of kits for the knit along. People have really been enjoying participating. It's been, again, a great community. To the extent that we are thinking of doing another one, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But it was also my first experience of really using Ravelry groups. Now, I don't know what other people's experience is of Ravelry groups, but I've never really ever used Ravelry for anything else other than sort of storing patterns that I wanted to have a look at and keep. So it was a bit of a baptism by fire, but goodness me, it's been lovely. It's been lovely, the communication on there, the support that everybody's given each other, particularly for the Arissimum shawl. Celine Fainton has actually been participating, the designer, and she's been absolutely fabulous, sort of helping people to navigate their way through her pattern, and yeah, it's been really sort of heartwarming. I think that sounds a bit sort of, I don't know, bit of a cliche, but it's been really, really lovely to be part of that community. And people, you know, when we go on a live, we get people joining us from all over the world, and that is amazing, really. So we've got the Ravelry groups running, and we're sort of coming to the latter part of the knit along. So what people have been asking us for is, could we do another one? And I was thinking, because obviously we've done shawls, don't want to do shawls. So I asked the people that have been participating what they would like to do, and we had several suggestions, but I wanted to start it probably, I think we call it Twixmas, so between Christmas and New Year, and into January. And obviously we wanted to make it so that anybody could do it, so it was gender neutral. So we are probably going to be doing a colourwork cowl, which is probably going to be like a twisted tubular cowl, so sort of you can knit it as long or as short as you want. I'm working with Nikki, who designed the Falmouth Harbour hats pattern. She is writing us an exclusive pattern for the cowl, and so it won't be released before we've done the cowl, so it'll be, you will get to see a sample of it, because I will knit it up in advance, so it's not going to be a mystery knit along. It's going to be, you're going to know what you're going to be knitting beforehand, and we will put together some kits for it. But watch this space, because that's all in the makings at the moment. So we've enjoyed it so much, it's not put us off. And we will be doing more and more of them frequently, and we hope more and more of you will join in. So as I said, we can create that sort of lovely community. So that's really what I've been knitting on. Last time I did sort of talk about the things that I planned. I've not done any of them. I've been so busy just with the knit along and the sock club and everything else. It's just been a bit full on, so I've not really knitted any of them. But my next cast on really is that kids porty cardigan using ginger pink yarns. The cardigan is by Gudrun Johnson, and I'm knitting a small size as a sample for the shop, because we are getting this yarn in from Ginger Pink Yarns, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. So that's one of the things I talked about knitting, and the other thing that I talked about knitting was the Gallant vest, which is by, oh goodness me, my head's gone at the moment. Got so much going through it. It's sort of like floating around. I will put that up underneath. But hers is a mystery sort of knit along. Or no, it's not a mystery knit along. It's a, because you know what the end design looks like. She's releasing elements of the pattern on a sort of fortnightly basis. Oh, she's an Irish knitter. Cannot for the life of me think what she's called. But I'm knitting this in raw wool in rum and raisin. This is a 70% British Swart Balls and 30% British Wensleydale, all from here from Cornwall. The sheep are from Cornwall. And when I did my last video walking around Yarndale, a few people said, oh, but you didn't do anything about the Raw Wool Company. Don't worry. I did that on purpose because I am going to film, Anton and I are going to film with the sheep and talk about the Raw Wool Company, but talk about sort of the heritage of the wool and the provenance of the wool, and show you where they live and everything in a future episode. It might be the next one or it might be the one after, but I thought you'd find that interesting, and we'll talk you through a little bit more about the Raw Wool Company in detail. But we have, as a Raw Wool Company, we've just had a load of yarn spun, so a load of fibre spun into yarns, and we've had a restock of some of the ones that have sold out. So this yarn here is our British Wensleydale. This comes from Anton's mums and Anton's mums, his sheep. They had loads of fibre in stock. Two different colours here. We've got shepherd silver and on a dark and stormy night. Anybody that's knitted with British Wensleydale will know it's sort of got a silky, drapey sort of feel to it. It's a very luxurious staple fibre. So it's beautiful to knit with, and we've got it in 4-ply and double knit at the moment. And this yarn here, which is a British Dorset, this yarn comes from a friend of Anton's called Steve, who's got a load of Dorset sheep up on the cliffs above Polperro, and we have just, this was very popular the first time and sold out, and we've just had a whole new batch of this done. So we've got some here in the shop, but they're also obviously if you go onto the Raw Wool website, again I'll pop that down here, if you go onto their website, the website for Raw Wool, you'll be able to see what's available, but we have got some stock here in the shop too, as you would expect, seeing as I have an interest in the company. So what else have I got to tell you? So in the shop we have been sort of starting to sort of restock. We had a few weeks where so much stuff sold out, but we have been starting to restock, and I did mention knit by numbers earlier, which this is knitted in. The original knit by numbers was 100% Falkland Merino, but John Arbon wanted to make it a more sustainable yarn, so have changed the blend so that it's 50% Blueface Leicester, 50% Falklands Merino, and we have just had a delivery of a load of it. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? I do love seeing new yarns together. So this is knit by numbers. We haven't got it all yet by any means. We've got more to come, but so aren't they gorgeous colours? So this is the DK weight. Well, as we were unpacking it yesterday, a customer came in and we hadn't even photographed it or done anything with it, but it was all, she snaffled these three colours to make a shawl, which was lovely. But yes, so that's just arrived, and I mentioned last time Nellie and Eve, who are Helen, who is a Welsh wool supplier and hand dyes all her own yarns and also uses natural yarns. So this yarn here, look at those lovely autumnal colours, aren't they gorgeous? So this is Welsh wool, and it is 50% Blueface Leicester, 50% Massam yarn. So a lovely blend, and then we've got it in the larger skeins as well. So that's literally just arrived. So I've just got my hands on it. So yeah, so lots of new stuff. Probably should mention it's quite different as well. So another yarn we've just had in is from a company called Mammy and Flory, Amy. She's based up in the north of England. So we've got these colours in a Blueface Leicester sock, which with a little bit of nylon in. So they're lovely. She's got a lovely eye for colour. But then we thought actually we need a bit of splash of colour, and so I really went for it. Hey, look at those. So these are traditional sock, these ones here. Aren't they gorgeous colours? They remind me of Tutti Fruttis. Anybody that is old enough to remember the sweet Tutti Fruttis will know what I mean. And then we've got a couple of them in fluff too, which is a kid mohair and silk blend. But yeah, I just wanted some colour. Sometimes we have got a lot of sort of natural looking yarns in the shop, and I just thought it'd be quite a good idea to have a little bit of colour coming into the shop. So I think that's quite a bit of what I wanted to talk to you about. I didn't want to make it too long, as you know, with my videos, and as I said, I'm really sorry that it's taken me a while to get back to you. I haven't taken part or even looked to take part in the, I can't even think what it's called, the Stephen West MCAL, and I know there's been some issues with it in terms of the first clue. I've not really sort of got involved in it, but I did really feel for him when I saw a clip, because obviously he'd made a genuine mistake in terms of his design was interpreted in a way that some people found offensive. He hadn't noticed it, his team hadn't noticed it, but he did a really very quick sort of turnaround and sort of change what he was going to do, taking on board. And I just really felt for him, because having, as I said, launched the sock club and knowing that, you know, there have been a couple of things that I will do differently next time, just to make things a little bit clearer for people. It's not that things were wrong, it's just that I've just had a lot of communication with people just who were looking for like information about the pattern and da da da. So it's just, you know, I think Stephen West has done an amazing job of pulling people together, making people really creative, inspiring people to do different things, and that's what we want to do with the Sock Club. So sometimes, you know, we're human, we make little mistakes, but he's held his hands up to it, and I really admire him for that. And I hope people continue to support him if that's what they're interested in. I personally don't like knitting something that I don't know what the end result's going to be. Even if I was to do one, I would wait until I saw the finished garment, which I did see quite a few of his shawls at Unravel and thought, wow, they're amazing. But I wouldn't do them without knowing what it was going to look like at the end of it, because that just doesn't suit me, I suppose. And so that's why I wouldn't do that. So finally, as I said, I like to put in a little bit about my home county of Cornwall. And in the summer, my husband and I, my husband's called Miles, we took a trip to Polperro. Polperro is a fishing village sort of on the south coast of Cornwall, not far from Looe. It's a very traditional sort of fishing village with tiny little windy lanes, really pretty, gets loads of visitors in the summer. But the main purpose of us going was I wanted to go inside the Heritage Museum, which contains a lot of information about Gansey knitting and Cornish Ganseys in particular. And I'd sort of gone a long time ago, but never with my knitter's head on, you know what I mean. You're knitters, you know what I mean. And so it was really interesting to revisit it, and I wanted to walk you guys around with me. So I'm hoping that you really stay on and watch that little clip and see what was in that museum. But I think what fascinated me about the Gansey sweaters is that that the whole family used to knit them. So from the younger children who knitted what they thought was the easiest bit, which was the bottom bit, the ribby bit, and then the older children would do sort of the stocking stitch, the sort of bulk of the plain knitting, and then the adults, particularly the women, would take on the sort of designs and the patterns that were up the top. And I sort of explain in the little VT B-roll that you'll get alongside of this a little bit about, you know, where those designs came from and what they signify. So I'm really hoping you enjoyed that little video clip. Please remember to comment. We really like it when you comment. I really like to hear what you're up to, whether you're interested in the cowl, whether you're interested in Sock Club, if you've got any questions about any of that. And then I will see you hopefully in about 3-4 weeks time, when I'll have done a little bit more knitting. That's not something that I can't show you anymore. And I look forward to chatting to you again soon. Welcome to sunny Polperro. We've driven down in glorious sunshine, and now it's raining. But hey, this is Cornwall. So what can I tell you about Polperro? Polperro is a fishing village and top tourist spot here in Cornwall. Mentions of Polperro date back to about 1300. I think the first mention of it is back in 1303. And I believe it features in the Domesday book as well. So it's primarily, as I said, sort of historically been used for fishing. Quite a small population, lots of holiday homes here, I'm afraid. So in the winter, a lot of businesses unfortunately have to close because they can't afford to stay open because there's not the population down here. Some towns and villages in Cornwall, the prettier ones, lose up to 70% of their population outside of summer months. Sort of its fishing history, it's sort of mainly known, in the past it was known for fishing pilchards, and the fishermen would bring the pilchards in, and here they would be processed, so they'd be salted and brined and ready and packed away and stored ready for, see my husband's most of the way down this because he always walks ahead of me. But it's a really pretty little village anyway. So as I was saying, it's a predominantly known for its fishing. Nowadays the main fish that come in are probably the luxury fish like scallops and lobsters and cod and those sorts of fish. So it still has a very good fishing industry from it, but tourism is one of its main sources of income down here. Driving cars down here is a nightmare. The streets are so narrow. In some Cornish towns you actually see cars actually stuck because they brought big 4x4s down into the town and they can't get them through. Down to the harbours. It is raining. Hubby's got his umbrella up, look. Yeah, no, it's lashing with rain, but actually now I can see peaks of sunshine. We might be getting some sun. Yeah, so this is the inner harbour. We were just about to dive in and get coffee, but we'll stay out whilst the weather's good. I think the tide's right in at the moment. Like this. Over there is the Heritage Museum where the Cornish Ganseys are. We'll go see if we can get in and I can give you a little tour. If not, I'll talk about the Ganseys outside. Going out to the harbour, we were just admiring these steps. Look how uneven they are. Probably original ones. Here we are, and the sun has decided to come out into the harbour. You see? See if I can zoom you in a little bit. So I think it is high tide at the moment. It's still a thriving fishing business town, but back in the early 18th century there were a couple of major storms here that knocked out the outer piers here. So this one here and that one over there were destroyed by the storms. So at least one of them was completely destroyed and another one was partially destroyed. So as I was saying, the piers were washed away in these great storms, and it washed away some of the houses too, so that they had to be rebuilt and reinforced so that they could protect this inner harbour and protect the livelihoods of the people that were actually living and working here. As I said, it was a thriving sort of industrial little village up until sort of tourism began to take its hold in Cornwall, and now obviously it's such a beautiful place that everybody wants to come and visit, and we can understand why. So here's the view into the inner harbour. And then out to sea. Not quite sure what that building is there. Maybe it was a sorting, processing place. But really pretty. Not too rough today, considering what the weather's like. It's quite windy. Can't go anywhere in Cornwall without the seagulls. Looking back towards town. Just imagine what these little lanes were like when, you know, back in the 18th century, when it was really busy here with smugglers and fishermen and locals. Seagulls are deafening. They're really aggressive at the moment. They're often. There's the harbour from the other side. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, now the sun's out. Definitely couldn't fit cars through here. Just look through and just glimpse the destination. Polperro Heritage Museum of Smuggling and Fishing. And they've got a nice little tea room and perfect place for it. Miles might sit outside while I go in and have a look, but yeah, oh, how beautiful is that? So these are the Cornish Ganseys, which were, well, not just for Cornwall, but they were worn by fishermen. Knitted by families, normally originated from Elizabeth I times, and I think they featured in the Battle of Trafalgar, and they're knitted from a 5-ply wool on very tiny needles to create a really dense fabric, which is windproof and protects you from the sea water. And in the gusset underneath the arm, they create a gusset, and quite often the women folk would knit in the date it was made and the initials of the person that owned it. And the patterning you can see at the top is quite often replicates sort of the cables and the nets and things that you see on fishing boats that the fishermen have. And each one sort of represents the village or the port in which they're sailing from, so that unfortunately if something did happen they could be easily identified. Families tended to knit these, so younger children started off at the bottom and knitted the ribbing, and then older children did the stocking stitch, the bodywork, and then the women folk would finish off the pattern at the top. So it's a real family occupation. You can see fishermen wearing them there. They're still worn today. They sort of phase them out over time, but they've become very fashionable again, and anybody that's ever knitted a Gansey sweater will know that is a labour of love, because the tiny little needles mean that you are knitting for ages. One here. This one, even the braces are knitted. Here we are, this one here. So in 1851, 28 women and girls from Polperro were listed as knitters. So 2 young Polperro girls constructing their knit frocks, so as well as the sweaters they would knit whole sort of tunics, which again protected the fishermen from the sea. But look at that, amazing. Here I'm wearing some of those knit frocks. So it says secret musicians, knit folk wearing their knit frocks. In those times had multiple jobs. Of a lady knitting. It said that she was later, this is Jane, I don't know if it's my namesake, later married to Charles Jolliffe. So she's knitting a Polperro knit frock with a knitting stick, which is, most of her knitting is pinned to her waistband, so her ball of wool is spiked on the railings. Gosh, an early... And here we are, some of the early Ganseys. Can't, because of the reflection, I can't show you the pattern here, but here we have some of the early implements that they used, the Cornish knitting sticks, as they were called here. Also known as knitting fish and knitting shades. So here is some of the yarn. We still produce yarn like this in Cornwall today and in other places. As I said, it's not peculiar to Cornwall, it's sort of aligned to ports. So Scotland has Ganseys and places in the north. And then down here are some more examples of Gansey patterns. As I said, they replicate the cables and the nets and the fishing vessels, quite often traditionally knitted in navy. Not quite sure why navy, but I suppose it's association with the sea. Some more examples here of the Gansey. So I can't see it really, but you can see a gorgeous reflection out the window here out into the harbour. It's stunning.
Ebenezer. In Newgate Jail, London, awaiting his ex.
Seagulls are pests. That's why we're saying that. This wall of this cottage is literally decorated with shells. There's a boat. Not sure what it all signifies, but amazing. Let's see what that says. Oh, that's meant to be Eddystone Lighthouse. The river runs right through the town. into the harbour. Miles is contemplating a pasty and he's shocked because they nearly sold out. Happy people. Mine's dripping. Completely different weather now. Walking back up. It's lovely, sunny. Just had lunch, ice cream. Miles has got a pasty in his hand, so he's happy. Tea. Happy days.